Long ago, before the world of Ninjago was torn apart by ancient curses and sinister betrayals, two brothers stood side by side in harmony. Sensei Wu, the wise and patient practitioner of creation, shared an unbreakable bond with his brother, Lord Garmadon. They were pupils under the same martial roof, learning the delicate balance of the cosmos, training under the golden rays of the sun, and dreaming of a peaceful realm. But destiny had a dark, cruel path laid out for the elder brother. It began on an unassuming afternoon when a dark shape slithered through the high grass. It was the Great Devourer, a legendary monster whose venom contained a corrupting, ancient darkness. In a single horrifying second, the beast struck, sinking its fangs into Garmadon's flesh. The venom did not kill him. Instead, it slowly seeped into his bloodstream, rotting his soul and twisting his once noble heart into a vessel of pure evil. Over the course of years, the corruption transformed Garmadon completely. He was no longer a man of flesh and warmth. The ancient darkness reshaped him into a terrifying, black entity, looking like a demon constructed of absolute shadow and night, standardizing his terrifying appearance as a pitch-black nightmare rather than a crimson fiend. His heart turned to obsidian, his eyes burned with ruthless ambition, and he claimed the mantle of a tyrannical ruler, eager to bring all of Ninjago under his dark domain. As his influence spread, Garmadon sought to secure his legacy. He looked toward his young son, Lloyd, intending to groom the boy into his sole heir and a ruthless leader in his own right. To initiate the boy into his evil society, Garmadon sent Lloyd on a task meant to be his first real step toward conquest, to subjugate and rule over a peaceful, unsuspecting village. Lloyd, eager to prove his worth to a father he both feared and admired, marched into the town with high expectations. But his triumph was cut short. 4 legendary warriors stepped forth to defend the innocent, a group of young heroes who embodied the core elements of the realm. Each ninja possessed unique, incredible qualities that made them a force to be reckoned with. First was Kai, the hot-headed and fiercely brave master of fire, whose burning passion was matched only by his absolute devotion to protecting others. Kai shared a perfect, unwavering bond with his sister, Nia, who was the tech-savvy, brilliant backbone of their team. Beside Kai stood Jay, the energetic master of electricity, whose lightning-fast reflexes were matched by his deep affection for Naya, making him her hopeless romantic and dedicated love interest. Then there was Cole, the charismatic, grounded, and highly intelligent master of Earth, whose physical strength was anchored by a sharp mind and rock-solid leadership skills. Finally, there was Zane, a revolutionary robotic android built like a futuristic man of iron, whose calm logic and control over the freezing power of ice, the ultimate strategist. Together, these 4 elemental guardians easily put a stop to Lloyd's poorly executed takeover, driving the boy away and humiliating him before he could even begin his dark reign. Furious, embarrassed, and desperate to impress his tyrannical father, Lloyd fled into the bitter cold of the snowy mountains. He refused to give up his quest for power, remembering ancient tales of forgotten serpent tribes who had once waged war against humanity. Searching through the deep drifts of white powder, Lloyd trod on and collapsed through a brittle crust of ice, into a deep subterranean cavern. He hit the stone floor with a loud thump, looking up to realize he had tumbled directly into Hypnobrai were a hypnotic tribe of serpentine warriors, ruled at the time by a general named Slithra. However, beneath Slithra's surface leadership, a treacherous storm was brewing. Slithra's second in command, a cunning snake named Scar, was actively plotting to usurp the throne. Scar saw Lloyd not as a ruler, but as a foolish child who could be manipulated. Scar's treacherous nature became fully exposed to both Lloyd and Slithra. Slithra challenged Scar to a brutal battle. The two sisters fire of the two. In the end, Scar's he struck down without a shred of remorse, claiming the title of general for himself. Standing over the lifeless body of his former leader, Scar coldly declared that he did not care if one of his own snakes was gone. Scar's power was secure. Turning his glowing, sinister eyes toward Lloyd, Scar granted the young boy a single mercy out of sheer arrogance, telling Lloyd to slither away while he still could, and giving him exactly one more day to stay alive. Terrified, but driven by an insatiable desire to succeed, Lloyd fled the Hypnobrai tomb and trudged further into the wilderness until he located the resting place of the second tribe, the Vampire. This tribe was led by Fangor, a terrifying two-headed serpent human. Fangs and crimson scales gave him the distinct appearance of a Lloyd managed to convince Fangor and his venomous mate to join his cause, promising them glory. Eager to crush the heroes who had previously embarrassed him, Lloyd and his new vampire henchmen launched a surprise assault on the ninjas' sacred Sphinx monastery. The attack was sudden and loud. The four were more than ready, harnessing their elemental powers and Kai, held the invaders, fighting off the slithering forces, preventing any significant damage to them. Defeated once again, Lloyd and his Vampire army beat a hasty retreat back toward the dark forest where they had first united. But as they marched through the shadows of the trees, they were protected by Scar, who had tracked them with his own Hypnobrai tribe. Instead of attacking, Scar approached with a wicked smile, revealing a plan. Scar explained that while the Vampire might be snobbish and difficult, they were true allies to the serpentine cause because they were every other serpent desired absolute revenge on the humans who had sealed them away. Realizing that simple skirmishes would not suffice to beat the ninja or impress Lord Dominant, Lloyd decided to seek out the most mythical tribe of all. He turned toward the scorching wastes of the desert, declaring to the surrounding snakes that he had one final legendary tribe to see. Lloyd ventured deep into the barren sands, looking into the mouth of a gigantic, shadowy cave that seemed to swallow the light. Descending into the deep cavern, Lloyd expected to find a hidden army of terrifying monsters. But instead, he was greeted by a grim and silent sight. The cave was filled with the dusty, ancient bones of the legendary Anacondrai tribe, scattered across the floor like forgotten relics. As Lloyd heard a ghostly, imposing Anacondrai general named Pyrrhus materialized out of the startled boy, immediately apologizing for the fright he had caused, and admitting with a dark, somber tone that he had been forced to eat his own kind just to survive the long, agonizing starvation. Lloyd, venting his built-up frustration, revealed his intense anger towards the Scar, explaining how they had repeatedly foiled his master plans to impress his father. Hearing this, Arcturus put on a smooth, manipulative charm. He told Lloyd that while other snakes were untrustworthy, there was only one serpent who was truly loyal to humans, and that very serpent was standing right in front of a brilliant genius like Lloyd. Overjoyed to finally have an ally who recognized his potential, Lloyd eagerly declared that he and Arcturus were now best friends. However, Arcturus secretly held vastly different, far more sinister ideas for the boy and the world above. Before Lloyd could act on his new partnership, the four ninja tracked the young boy down to a nearby local school building, determined to put an end to his chaotic streak once and for all. Arcturus, proving his cruel ingenuity, immediately moved to create a major distraction. He slithered into the school's maintenance department and switched off the main elevator's electricity, trapping dozens of helpless children inside the suspended metal box between floors. Panic erupted throughout the facility. While Kai, Cole, Jay, and Zane rushed to manage the emergency and secure the building, Lloyd stood high above on an indoor balcony, watching the chaos unfold below under Arcturus's guidance. When the ninja finally managed to navigate the chaos and reach the high balcony to confront them, Arcturus stepped in front of Lloyd. Looking down at the four heroes, the ancient serpent general unexpectedly proclaimed to the ninja that young Lloyd was actually the strongest elemental master of them all, possessing a power far greater than any of them realized. But before anyone could process the statement, Arcturus lunged forward, snatched Lloyd's ancient map of the serpent's tombs directly out of the boy's hands, and made a dramatic escape. As he vanished into the shadows, Arcturus declared that he would soon return with an overwhelming wave of evil to unleash upon everyone who had ever despised him and his kind. Left behind on the balcony without his map or his snake companion, Lloyd was completely cornered. Furious and tired of the endless trouble the young boy had caused, the four elemental ninja closed in, preparing to smash Lloyd and put him in captivity. But before they could strike, Sensei Wu stepped forward out of the shadows, raising his wooden staff to halt his pupils. Wu looked at his young nephew with deep sadness and wisdom, declaring to the ninja that the child was not merely a villain to be defeated. Lloyd was the master of creation, a powerful force that needed to be guarded, guided, and taught rather than destroyed. Trembling and broken, Lloyd finally broke his villainous facade. He confessed to the ninja that despite his cruel antics, he was actually trying all along to save the world from the true, ancient threat of the Serpentine. He had naively believed that if he could tame the snakes and make them his allies, he could keep them under control while simultaneously impressing his dark father. Lloyd insisted that he had never intended to commit such horrible, destructive acts on such a massive scale, realizing too late that he had been used as a pawn by forces far more evil than himself. While the ninja processed this shocking revelation, Arcturus was already putting his ultimate plan into motion. He reunited with Scar in the vast desert, where the two generals began digging relentlessly into the deep sand. Scar was visibly irritated, fed up with this physical labor. Grumbling openly admitting that he did not believe the ancient prophecy of a giant, legendary snake rising from the earth to devour entire cities whole. But Arcturus paid no attention to Scar's doubts and kept digging deeper and deeper into the bedrock. Finally, Arcturus struck a solid ancient stone structure deep beneath the desert surface. Resting on the carved stone was a massive, forgotten mechanical switch. Arcturus grinned, reaching down and pulling the lever with all his strength. The earth shook violently as ancient gears ground together beneath the dunes. The thunderous roar, the lost legendary subterranean city of Ouroboros, burst through the desert floor, rising magically to ground level in a magnificent cloud of dust and ancient stone. Miles away, the ninja and Lloyd felt the massive tremor. They hurried toward the source of the noise, but as they spotted the towering spires of Ouroboros rising on the horizon from afar, a sense of dread washed over them. They realized they were too late to prevent the city's resurrection. The magnitude of the threat seemed overwhelming, and for a moment the heroes felt utterly helpless, wondering how four ninja could possibly stand against a fully restored serpentine stronghold. It was Kai who broke the heavy silence. Turning to his teammates with fiery determination in his eyes, Kai declared that even if death was waiting for them inside those ancient walls, they were heroes, and they had a duty to do what was right, no matter the cost. Inspired by Kai's courage, Cole, Jay, and Zane nodded in agreement, resolving to press forward and launch a dangerous rescue and assault mission on the rising city of Ouroboros. Meanwhile, Lloyd was working on his own desperate plan. Approaching the newly risen city of Ouroboros from a different direction across the desert, he managed to slip past the outer perimeters unnoticed within minutes. To disguise his human identity, Lloyd pulled a carved snake mask, hoping to blend in with the gathering crowd of cold-blooded warriors. Inside the central Arcturus grand ceremony to unite all the serpentine tribes. But the generals of the other tribes were highly skeptical. They questioned his authority, shouting down his grand declarations and openly stating that they refused to be led into what they called dangerous nonsense. Seeing the revolt brewing, Arcturus aside of the anger. Arcturus leaned close and saw a strong steel. Saw discreetly hand him a strong, heavy sword. Overall, Scar's eyes gleamed. Moments later, the fight rushed forward, challenging as the chaos. Scar executed the plan perfectly, sliding a gleaming sword into Arcturus's waist, without the crowd noticing the exchange. Armed with lethal steel, Arcturus swung the blade with terrifying precision, disarming and asserting dominant force in seconds. Terrified by his sudden show of armed dominance, the snake generals dropped their weapons, pledging their absolute loyalty to Arcturus and bowing deeply before their new supreme ruler. From the edge of the arena, Lloyd watched the terrifying unification with growing horror. He realized he had to act immediately and escape to warn the ninja that the tribes were officially deadly commander. But as he turned into the shadows, he accidentally snake mask clattered across the stone wall, exposing the young human boy to the entire world. Arcturus' eyes locked on him, pointing a clawed finger. Arcturus command to stop, ordering him to ensure the serpentine guards locked him deep inside the dark dungeon cell of Ninjago. Scar's guards dragging him away from the ground, throwing him roughly into a cold, subterranean tomb. The heavy metal door slammed shut, plunging the boy into pitch darkness. Despair began to set in, but suddenly, brilliant, warm light sparkled in the center of the dark cell. The mystical radiance illuminated the ancient walls, revealing a glowing, ethereal path that seemed to lead right through the solid stone. The light resonated with the dormant elemental energy deep within Lloyd's bloodline. As the light enveloped him, a surge of pure creation energy coursed through his veins, transforming Lloyd instantly into the legendary Green Ninja, clad in vibrant emerald robes. Feeling his true destiny awaken, Lloyd rushed along the magical path of light, breaking free from the dungeon to stop the rising darkness. At that exact moment, the four ninja breached the gates of Ouroboros. They charged straight into the massive central arena, weapon drawing, ready to face Arcturus and his new army head-on. Just as the confrontation was about to turn into a bloodbath, Lloyd emerged from the shadows of the arena, radiating brilliant green energy. He displayed his new power with a staggering demonstration of light and force, shocking both the ninja and the serpent horde. Lloyd stepped forward, his voice echoing with absolute authority as he threatened the serpentine, giving Arcturus and his army exactly 5 minutes to retreat and abandon the city before he unleashed the full might of the Green Ninja upon them. Arcturus evaluated the glowing boy and the four prepared elemental masters standing beside him. Realizing a direct fight at this exact moment might cost him his newly unified army, Arcturus raised a hand, signaling his forces to hold. Turning to his loyal followers, Arcturus announced that they would retreat for now, assuring them that their withdrawal was merely a temporary strategic pause, not a defeat. The serpentine horde slithered out of Ouroboros, traveling across the realm until they reached the neon-lit grounds of a bustling human amusement park. Gathered in the shadow of the Tower of Lies, Arcturus gathered his generals and revealed his true, grand objective. He explained that ancient prophecy spoke of 4 mystical, elemental blades hidden across the land. If the Serpentine could locate all 4 blades, they would possess the power to reawaken the great Devourer, the ancient Leviathan, and unleash it to consume civilization, starting with the heart of modern progress, the vast metropolis of Nintropolis. Arcturus pointed toward a massive dark structure in the center of the park, the haunted house ride, sensing that the first blade was hidden deep within its walls. He ordered his army forward to storm the attraction. But just as Arcturus and his inner circle prepared to cross the threshold, a cheerful little boy holding an ice cream cone ran up to them, completely oblivious to the danger. Assuming the terrifying snake generals were simply street performers in high-end costumes, the boy naively convinced reluctant Scar and Arcturus to stand still and pose for a quick souvenir photograph. Arcturus gritted his teeth, endured the brief human interaction, and then shoved past the child, leading the Serpentine tribes as they stormed en masse into the darkened haunted house. Inside, terror erupted in Immediately, Lizard, the deadly general of the venomous Venomari tribe, ordered his warriors to unleash their sinister biological power. The Venomari began spitting their bright, glowing venom directly onto the helpless park guests who were riding through the attraction in dark vehicles. The moment the venom struck the riders, it interacted with their senses, inducing intense, terrifying hallucinations. The harmless mechanical props of the haunted house transformed in the minds of the victims into giant, living monstrosities and overwhelming darkness, sending the park guests into violent panics. Amidst the chaos, Arcturus began searching for the artifact while issuing ruthless tactical orders. He commanded Monger, the towering, powerful general of the Constricti tribe, along with Scar and a strike team of serpentine warriors, to execute a targeted ambush on Kai and Naya. Working quickly under the cover of the artificial fog, the heavy snakes overwhelmed the citizens, binding them tightly. To ensure the ninja could not intervene, Monger and Scar dragged the bound brother and sister out of the haunted house and hauled them up the metal scaffolding of a nearby massive wooden roller coaster. They tied Kai and Mia securely to the wooden track, right in the path of an oncoming coaster train that was poised at the top of a steep drop, waiting for its mechanical release to hurtle downward. Shortly after, Cole, Jay, and Zane arrived at the amusement park in pursuit of the Snake Army. To avoid causing a massive public panic among the thousands of park visitors, the three ninja attempted to blend in, pretending to enter the haunted house area as regular guests. But as they approached the ride, Jay glanced up toward the towering frame of the adjacent roller coaster and gasped in horror. Perched high on the tracks were Kai and Mia, completely immobilized, with a heavy metal roller coaster vehicle slowly beginning to tip over the crest of the hill directly above them. Jay, driven by his deep love and desperation, surged forward with incredible speed. He scaled the wooden framework of the ride in seconds, reaching Kai and Naya just as the mechanical train disengaged from its brake safety and plummeted down the steep track toward them. Jay flashed knots holding them to the rails. He managed to untie the ropes, but he was still too late to get them off the track entirely. Kai and defying force, scooping the bound bodies onto the front. By sheer momentum, it dragged them along the high-speed, twisting surface of the ride. While Kai and Naya were swept away on the runaway train, Arcturus was deep beneath the floorboards of the haunted house ride, clawing through ancient stone foundations. His claws struck cold metal, and with a triumphant laugh, he pulled the first legendary fang blade from its resting place, its ancient metal gleaming with dangerous power in the dim light. High above the coaster track, Kai and Naya struggled desperately to break free from the emergency seat belts and strings holding them to the fast-moving train as it zoomed around sharp, dangerous turns. Down on the ground, Zane calculated the trajectory of the ride with cold, robotic precision, seeing the train heading toward a steep, low curve near the surface. Zane stepped forward and channeled his deep elemental energy over his iron hands. He launched a massive wave of pure frost across the wooden tracks ahead. The liquid ice instantly coated the metal rails, freezing the mechanism of the coaster train solid the moment it hit the curve. The train ground to a sudden, safe halt on the icy track, allowing Kai, Naya, and Jay to jump clear and regroup safely with Cole and Zane on the ground. Though the team was reunited and unharmed, a heavy shadow fell over the talk. Arcturus emerged from the exit of the haunted house, holding his ancient, gleaming trophy high in the air for his slithering legion to see. With the first fangblade secured in his clutches, the cold-blooded general turned toward the horizon, rallying his unified army to press onward into the realm, determined to hunt down the and release the great devourer before the elemental creature could ever hope to stop him. Boarding a Rust Street City transit bus, Arcturus and his cold-blooded followers rattled down the paved roads toward an ancient history museum located on the outskirts of the realm. The museum was managed by a kind, soft-spoken man who happened to be Cole's beloved uncle. But beneath Martin's friendly demeanor lay a heavy, dark secret. Arcturus had manipulated him into a desperate bargain, warning Martin that if he ever wanted his nephew Cole to be spared from the coming war, he had to surrender the second ancient fang blade directly to the Serpentine. When the four elemental heroes arrived at the grand entrance of the exhibition halls, Martin greeted them warmly as part of the forced arrangement, luring them deeper into the maze of displays where an ambush was waiting. As they walked through the quiet corridors, Cole found himself admiring the ancient artifacts and historic paintings hanging along the marble walls. Suddenly, his eyes landed on a grand golden frame containing a heartwarming portrait of his late mother, standing with her arms wide open in an affectionate embrace. Tears welled up in Cole's eyes as he stared at the image, whispering softly in grief, asking why she had to leave him so soon. Watching the young Earthmaster weep, Martin felt a sudden, powerful wave of remorse. Remembering that family was far more important than any forced deal with corrupt villains,
don't do this to
Martin
me!
broke down,
I can't!
telling the ninja to abandon the tour and run for their lives immediately. Before the team could react, the heavy glass windows shattered as Serpentine hurled live explosives into the main hall. Smoke and fire erupted across the marble floor. Martin reacted instantly, shoving open a hidden reinforced door behind a tapestry and leading the heroes down a dark flight of stone steps into a subterranean cave that served as their emergency exit. The snake forces burst into the exhibition room seconds later, finding it completely empty. Though the heroes had slipped away, Arcturus marched straight to a central display case, smashing the heavy glass with his claws to pull out the gleaming second fang blade. Martin trembled in terror against the wall, and Star slithered forward, raising his glowing eyes to hypnotize the manager into an unwilling accomplice. But Arcturus roughly shoved Star back, reminding his general that finding the remaining two fang blades was vastly more important than tormenting a broken human. Deep beneath the city, the ninja navigated the dark, damp cavern, completely unable to establish radio contact with Sensei Wu. After minutes of frantic walking, the underground path opened up to reveal a massive, sweltering chamber inside the hollow core of the Mana volcano, a dangerous peak that ancient charts warned was scheduled to erupt in mere minutes. Stopping just short of the main volcanic chamber, the heroes ducked behind a massive jagged stone, peering out to see Scar and a full battalion of Serpentine entering the fiery cavern from an opposing tunnel. The center of the volcano was a vast pit of bubbling, liquid magma. Though oddly, the lava glowed with a sickening, vibrant green hue. Kai whispered fiercely to his brothers that they had to strike now and fight. The others hesitated, worried about the bubbling pit below. Overhearing Kai's quiet whisper, Scar turned his long neck and alerted Arcturus, shouting that he heard familiar voices plotting to save the world again. Before the army could surround the hidden heroes, a shadow fell over the green, molten lake. A massive flying airship descended through the volcanic plume, dropping a heavy iron anchor right beside the ledge so the ninja could climb aboard. To reach the rope, however, the four elemental masters had to fight through the entire assembled serpentine army. Weapons flashed in the green light of the volcano as the ninja clawed the path forward. Scar personally lunged at Naya, attempting to strike her down in the chaos, but his ruthless attacks repeatedly failed as Naya dodged and counterstruck with fierce precision. Meanwhile, back in the subterranean dungeons of Ouroboros, young Lloyd was trapped alongside Harumi, the secretive royal daughter of the realm's king and queen. Sitting in the dim light of the cell, Lloyd shared his deep personal grief, admitting that he had always dreamed of being a peaceful explorer. But his dark father had forced him to become an heir of destruction and chaos instead. Harumi placed a gentle, empathetic arm on Lloyd's shoulder, softly reminding him that everyone carries a dream in their heart. She confessed that she had always wanted to be a heroic savior who enforced justice in the city, but she had lacked the courage to stand up to her royal parents. Looking Lloyd in the eyes, Harumi insisted that it was never too late to fight for one's true path. Reinvigorated by her words, Lloyd asked Harumi to hold his hand. Uniting their resolve, a blinding surge of pure energy erupted from Lloyd's palm, the unmistakable mark of the elemental master of energy, proving to Harumi that he was indeed the legendary Chosen One. The raw energy blasted the thick dungeon door straight off its hinges. Racing into the corridors, Lloyd and Harumi swiftly overpowered four-armed snake guards, commandeered a sleek serpentine land vehicle, and sped out into the desert toward the volcano to rescue the ninja. At the Mana volcano, the battle reached a boiling point. Combining their martial arts and elemental might, the four ninja cut through dozens of serpentine warriors. Working in tandem, they delivered a massive, combined strike directly against Arcturus, knocking the Snake Supreme leader flat onto his back, where he lay completely still on the stone floor, seemingly dead. With the volcanic tremors growing violent, the heroes scrambled up the airship's anchor rope, pulling themselves onto the deck as the flying vessel ascended back into the sky toward Ouroboros. However, Arcturus was not dead. Moments after the ship cleared the volcanic rim, the ancient general stirred, coughing up dust as Scar slithered to his side. Scar held up a third gleaming weapon, the third fang blade recovered from the depths of the volcano. Groaning as he stood, Arcturus declared that the final blade was locked inside a heavily guarded, wooden passenger train traversing the desert, and they needed to hijack it immediately. The Serpentine army mobilized to the desert track, swarming the moving wooden train, overpowering the conductors and taking control of the engine as Arcturus directed the speeding locomotive back toward Ouroboros. High in the sky, Lloyd and Harumi used their stolen vehicle's comms to contact Kai aboard the flying airship, informing the heroes that they were tracking the hijacked train below. As the locomotive thundered through the dunes, Lloyd leaped from the stolen vehicle straight through a glass passenger window, while Harumi vaulted onto the moving roof. Detecting the intruders, Arcturus barked into the train's internal intercom, ordering his generals Ninjago and Monger to eliminate the trespassers. Two massive snakes climbed onto the roof of the speeding train, weapons drawn, preparing to crush Lloyd and Harumi. Facing the imposing generals, Harumi raised her hands and chanted a dark, ancient spell. A wave of absolute zero energy swept across the train, instantly freezing Monger and Lizaru solid into two frozen ice statues. Looking up, Lloyd and Harumi saw the massive airship hovering directly over the speeding train. Standing at the bow of the ship, Sensei Wu looked down at the moving target and barked a direct order to his ninja to jump. Jay panicked instantly, screaming in terror, asking if the old master was nuts and insisting they could never survive such a fall. The rest of the team hesitated in fear, but Kai stepped forward, shouting words of pure encouragement, declaring that they were fighting for everything and had nothing to lose. Kai leaped into the open air, and the other ninja followed without hesitation. As the heroes plummeted from the sky, their elemental powers synchronized, merging into a massive, roaring elemental tornado mid-air. The spinning vortex crashed violently into the middle of the wooden train, shearing the entire vehicle completely in half. Lloyd and Harumi remained safe on the front section, while the rear half carried Arcturus, who had just pulled the fourth and final fang blade from a wooden drawer near the steering wheel. But Arcturus was not alone. Sensei Wu had dropped directly onto the rear half with him. Wu drew his staff, engaging the Snake Supreme leader in a brutal physical duel aboard a swaying train car. As the woods splintered around them, Wu used the snake's own momentum against him, delivering a powerful strike that sent Arcturus crashing through a side window and tumbling into the desert sand. On the other half of the train, the remaining ninja engaged the remaining serpentine guards. Naya stepped into the fray, unexpectedly channeling raw, fiery elemental powers identical to her brother Kai's, unleashing a wall of flame that blasted the snake warrior's back. Scar lunged from the shadows behind him, wrapping his scaly arms around Naya's throat to strangle her, but Jay reacted instantly, tackling the Hypno-Rai general, throwing Scar straight out the window, knocking the snake unconscious on the rocks outside. With the battle quieted, the ninja gathered on the ruined train cars, suddenly realizing Sensei was missing and concluding with dread that Arcturus must have escaped with all four fang blades. Abandoning the broken train, the heroes jumped into the desert sand and began running toward Ouroboros on foot. Arcturus reached the central arena of Ouroboros long before them. Panting and pleased, he rushed to the base of the massive Great Devourer statue, placing all four glowing fang blades into their ancient stone altars. Ancient magic flared to life. The massive stone statue began to crack and collapse into powder, unleashing a dark energy into the ground. Suddenly, Sensei Wu stepped in, warning Arcturus that the devourer was absolute madness, as the ancient was a mindless force that would devour him along with the rest of the world. Before Arcturus could respond, the earth was fractured with the force of a massive earthquake. The ground and terrified by the catastrophic force. teaching him in final moments that selfish, dark deeds made the entire living world. The ninja sprinted into the just as he shattered a gargantuan series of attempts. Its massive wide as it instantly swallowed arc back to a corner, pulling out and reciting an incantation to summon Lord Garmadon to their aid. For a terrifying moment, the magic seemed to fail. The colossal devourer slithered out of the ancient city, pursuing populated metropolis, crushing and casually citizens fled. Night. Great devourer looming directly over them, its fangs dripping. But just as they reared back, descending from the clouds like the dark, Lord Garmadon plunged downward, wielding a massive battle with a single mighty strike powered by pure dark energy. Garmadon sliced the giant monster. Its stomach, the great devourer exploded into a